Welcome to episode number 49 of Hoop Talk Fanatics. I am here with my co-host Chris Korn, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about, which we will be recapping the eight of the NCAA tournament and previewing the Final Four and talking Sixers Grizzlies. So I'm looking forward to talking to you, Chris, about all of these things.
Yeah, so we got a lot. It's a crazy time of year for basketball. NBA regular season has about 2 weeks left,
Mhm.
and we have the Final Four next weekend for college basketball. So it's going to be an exciting time for these all these teams we discuss, and basketball season's at its finest moment right now.
Mhm. So let's dive into the eight of the NCAA tournament. What were your thoughts on the Kid State FAU game?
That was just a fantastic game. One thing Kansas State kind of was very impacted by was Keontae Johnson's foul trouble. I don't know how many he played. He played 18 minutes is all in that game, and with him on the bench, it was pretty clear FAU was the better team inside, especially, and they just didn't have the talent. Just guarantee that. Like with Noel and Johnson, they were the best two players in that game, but Johnson only playing 18 of the minutes that left 22, and I felt like Florida Atlantic really dominated those stretches, and they were really good inside. Golden was fantastic, and the guard play was really effective as well. And they hit some big shots. I felt like because it seemed like in the second half, K State had a chance to kind of take control. They just weren't able to do so. Johnson played 18. He still had a few buckets, but when you're in foul trouble, he was never able to get into a rhythm of the game. And FA really adjusted defensively on Marquise Noel. He still had 30 points and 12 assists, but he went 8 for 21, which isn't great efficiency. And he made some big shots down the stretch, so like it's not on him at all. But outside of him, they didn't have anything consistently. Tomlin played okay, but they just didn't have enough firepower
Mm-hmm.
outside of Noel to win that game. And that was their story a lot of the season, and it really good FAU team.
I was really impressed by Brian Greenlee for FAU. He had 16 points, along with Elijah Martin, who had 17 points and 4 rebounds. Uh, I think those two are going to be a big factor in the Final Four. Um,
Those two will be big, definitely.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Um, what were your thoughts on I don't know how to pronounce his name. Vad
Vlad Golden.
yeah, yeah.
Just say Golden, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he
Golden.
was
Yeah.
he controlled the interior of that game. I don't know what the rebounding stats. It was 41 to 16 rebounding for the teams. And
Hmm.
Golden had close to he had 13 himself. K-State of the team had 16 rebounds. I knew it was bad, but not until this moment when I just looked at it and I realized it was that bad. You're not going to win many basketball games when you're getting doubled up on the boards. They weren't even close. They were almost tripled up on the board. This was not a good rebounding performance, and a lot of that goes to Golden. He also was had a lot of finishes inside. They weren't able to defend him well, and just he was the enforcer on both ends of the court, and I think like he was the best big man in that game, and Kansas State needed more from their front court, and like none of it, they didn't play awful, but they just didn't have
Hmm.
quite the intensity that Golden did, and I think that cost them in that one. I want to go right back to you talked about Greenlee and Martin for Florida Atlantic. A lot of the talk for has been about Janelle Davis and Golden. Those were kind of the two guys. I think they both made all region team for FAU. But Greenlee and Martin both hit some big shots. I think they combined for I think 7 threes in that game. And like those are the guys who are going to need to step up around the stars. Like this is a really deep FAU team. But I think those are the other guys in the starting lineup who are gonna they cannot if they can combine for 7 threes against San Diego State, which isn't just how they've defended in this tournament. But those are guys who are going to need to hit some shots, I think, to really open up these. They want to win a couple more games and win it all.
So Next game is Gonzaga and UConn. Um, Gonzaga Gonzaga really let this one fly by. I felt like UConn was really thriving from start to finish. Jordan Hawkins and Alex Kelban really uh, went off. Hawkins had 20 points and 6 rebounds, and Kelban had 12 points and 4 rebounds. And I just felt like Gonzaga's defense wasn't up to their standard, and UConn really let that game pass by.
Yeah, I definitely felt Gonzaga's deep. UConn, a lot of credit goes to UConn, I think. You mentioned Caravan and Hawkins, they were fantastic, but I felt like Andre Jackson and No-Go were the two. Like they controlled that game. Both of them, neither like they had triple double like stats. Like, they were just dominating. Like the dump offs, like low block to low block. There's a little bit of high low action as well. Snow try to post up and just like they were finishing at the rim. Like and Gonzaga's help wasn't quite there, and that led to Caravan. Calcaterra hit a couple as well, I believe, and Hawkins like getting some perimeter shots because they were so good inside, and the rotation from Gonzaga just wasn't where it needed to be. And that's their defense hasn't been very good this season, and that's usually Gonzaga teams don't been great. We've had a couple, like, they've had some really decent, well, but recently they hadn't quite been up to that standard. And just the first half they kept it kind of close, but early in the second half they started to really lose momentum. And then when Drew Timme got his fourth foul, they were down like a dozen or something, and they had no chance after that. You could tell pretty quickly after he went to the bench they were done, and they never into that game after that. Just disappointing to see his career end like that, but UConn's a fantastic heavy favorite to win it all right now.
Mm-hmm. So the other four, well, it happened on Sunday. Creighton and San Diego State was a really crazy one. San Diego State won by one, 57-56. What were your initial thoughts on this one?
That was a great basketball game. It was a little bit ugly. San Diego State they'll make you play ugly, and Crane just couldn't hit shots.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they finished with two make threes. I don't know how many attempts they had, but I know they had two makes. And San Diego State's been doing that all tournament. I don't know the exact number now, but it's under 20% from three of their opponents this year in this tournament, which is just crazy. I don't know, like they've been so good defensively, just making it tough on the teams. And I think Mensah did a great job, and everyone else, but Mensah especially defending Carl Quinter because he had his moments. He had some big plays, but he got rattled in that second half, and I think he was frustrated. And they did a good job getting under his skin and making some plays, and they found a way to win that game. And it was a great game down the stretch. Both teams got some stops and had a couple big baskets, but San Diego State had it at the end. Trammell was able to hit one of the two free throws they needed to win the game.
So what were your thoughts on the Miami Texas game?
That was a crazy basketball game. So much talent was on that floor. Texas was loaded. Both teams were making big shot after big shot, but it just seemed like late to end the first half. I don't know what the score happened was. It's probably about 10-point lead, and then to start the second half, Texas really started to take control. And even midway in the second half, they were up. I don't know what their biggest lead was, but it was about 15 or so at least. And it seemed like they were in a really good spot. It's just Miami was able to string together some stops, and the guard play for Miami was fantastic. Felt like Nigel Pack did some stuff in the first half to keep them within striking distance, and then Isaiah Wong just went to work and got some big buckets. One of the mid range, he really started to take advantage of what they were giving him. But the big story was Jordan Miller. He finished with 27. Yep, 27. He had so many big plays, and he knocked down his free throws. He shot over a dozen free throws. He didn't miss any of them. Just fantastic performance. and they needed all those plays, and they made the big plays down the stretch. They got a lot of 50-50 balls, and just it felt like everything was starting to trend their direction. Texas made some big shots, so even when things started going the other direction, they made some big shots. Me Allen, Marcus Carr, but they just didn't have quite enough from the other guys. Dylan not having Dylan DeSue played a factor for sure, but just they just didn't quite have. Who knows what it will look like with him? But like Bishop was okay. Dylan Mitchell didn't play a lot, so I thought we'd see a little bit more from him. But Miami was able to string together just enough stops to win this game.
But what were your thoughts on Texas giving away their lead late in the second half?
Yeah, it was really interesting. They had a few like there was a few turnovers for sure. I don't know what they ended with. They ended with 12, I think, 12 or 13. Like they turned it over a few times, but I think Miami was able to string together multiple possessions and well with baskets. Like they shot 60. Miami shot 60% from the field. They shot 32 free throw attempts. I thought Miami was aggressive, getting to the basket, and their guards like in the wings, they were attacking Wong, Miller. They were going after him. And they were being very physical in that second half, and it it helped them out a lot. They were able to they slowed the game down at times, but they like in the half court they like took their time, did their sets. But when they had chances in transition off turnovers, they really took advantage, pushed the pace. They missed a couple transition threes that I thought were gonna come back to haunt them, but they kept pushing the pace when they had the chance, and they just I really like their execution offensively in the second half. And I mentioned already, but they strung together just enough stops. Like Marcus in the first half, for like Timmy Allen and Marcus Carr hit. They still made some shots in the second half, but when they got to their spots, I felt like they weren't missing. And in the second half, they missed like one or two jumpers. I felt like that they usually don't miss. And I felt like that was just enough for Miami to kind of get in a rhythm defensively.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see the Miami Hurricanes elite offense come come Saturday against UConn, and that game will be an up and down game. I feel like, uh, I mean, like I just feel like Miami has the ability to defend and get get going offensively, and this game might come down to the last possession. But I wouldn't count out UConn beating them by double digits, but it might come down to the last possession. You never know.
Yeah, definitely. This should be a fantastic game. Miami has the firepower to keep up with UConn for sure. It's going to be
Hmm.
interesting to see how does Miami defend Sonogo in the low post because Gonzaga didn't have much success with it. Like Sonogo didn't kill them scoring the ball, but the
Hmm.
dump off Jackson like it led to open shots on the perimeter. So it's going to be interesting to see what Miami does from that standpoint. I like O'Meara matching up against Sonogo, but how I felt like the rotation of Miami wasn't great necessarily. Like they didn't have a ton of rotations, but defense wasn't perfect in the first half, and that kind of put them in a really bad spot in the second half. Like they're not a great defensive team in general, but like they've been okay, and they found ways to win some of these close games in the tournament by getting a couple stops. Because maybe that's all they need against UConn, but they've got to find a way to string together some stops. So I'm really looking forward to that big man matchup and how they defend the no go.
Yeah, it should be two big time matchups. Uh, but what are your thoughts on the FAU game against San Diego State?
That's going to be super interesting. Both these teams have shown that they can play in some different styles. FAU got up and down a little bit more against FDU and Kansas State. I feel like they kind of got up and down, but FAU won kind of a slugfest against Tennessee. That was an ugly game, but they found a way to come from behind and win. That's something they've done each game. I feel like they've had a big second half run
Hmm.
against Memphis. They were down a little bit. They came back and won. Kansas State, they were down some. They went on that big run, and then they did against Tennessee and FDU. They had a similar second half run because they were tested in that game too. But San Diego State, on the other hand, they've had some similar issues down the stretch of games. They struggle a little bit, They've had some bad turnovers against Creighton. They had some.
Mhm.
Bama, they kind of struggled a little bit. They fell behind in that game, but then they were able to string together stops. And if you can string together multiple stops in a row, that helps you a lot. If you can get out transition off them, get some easy baskets off of them. But San Diego State, they haven't gotten a lot out of Matt Bradley this tournament. He's kind of been their guy, but he didn't play a lot in that second half against Creighton. They went to some of the other guards who kind of stepped up and made some plays. So San Diego State's going to need more consistency and production out of, I think, Bradley and some of the other main guys they want to win this game. Because FAU has shown that they can beat anybody, and this should be an awesome basketball game. And I'm really excited to see these two mid majors kind of play on the big stage.
Mhm. Yeah, that game should be a very entertaining one. And we'll see what happens on Saturday. So shifting gears to NBA talk, Chris and I will be talking about his Grizzlies and my Sixers because the playoffs are around the corner and we want to get our thoughts out to the public. So I'll start with my Sixers. I feel like they have a really great advantage of getting deep into the playoffs. I know they've been falling off a little the past two games, but those two games don't necessarily have a picture of where they are as a whole. And I feel like once playoff time comes, uh, this whole team of uh, a great offensive team will have the ability to shock people around the country. And I see the Sixers team going as far as the finals if Embiid can stay healthy and uh, get over 30 points a game and continue to rise to his equation. And I'm just really confident of this team having Harden, Maxey, D'Anthony Melton, Julius Niang, all of these players that the Sixers have as of now are really meant to win a championship. And I know it's going to be a really hard playoff run for them, but I, I think they got this in them.
I think they're in a good spot. Ending the regular season is always interesting for all these teams, especially teams who are a little bit older and have some vets. Because they're just ready for playoff basketball already. But it is important to make sure they do stay in the 3 seed. I would say. I mean, it's your second round matchup is going to be tough against anybody, but I think staying out of that 4 or 5 could be big um, for them, especially. You don't want to have to play a team like who knows. I mean, the Knicks aren't. They shouldn't beat the Sixers in the series, but I think you'd rather play one of the other teams in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
So, but all that matters is playing your best basketball at the end of the season. You talked about it. The core of the Sixers is really good. My concern with them is I don't think their bench is good enough to compete against some of these other top teams. So they're going to be tested. You mentioned Niang. He's a guy who can, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do it on a consistent night. And they're going to need him every night in the playoffs. So that's something to watch. But the starting lineup in the core guys, is Melton going to be enough? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
in that second unit from the guard play. Um, he struggled a little bit in the playoffs and had some issues with Memphis. So will he be a better fit Philly alongside these guys? I think he will be, but it's still something to watch. But they're primed for a deep playoff run, and they have as good a chance as anybody to win the NBA Finals. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's going to be a fun time watching them compete, and we'll see what happens. So, before we end this episode, I wanted your thoughts on your Grizzlies team and how you think they will stand in the playoffs.
I'm super excited for these playoffs because I feel like Denver's kind of been struggling a little bit recently, and we've been playing great basketball. even with Ja Morant's suspension, we kind of we got through that. We've had some injuries. Steven Adams is still out, so that's a big question mark for us. Brandon Clark's also out for the season, but we've had good contribution from the depth pieces, and we've won 6 or 7 in a row. I'm not exact sure on the number, but gone on a nice little winning streak, and we're up 2 games on Sacramento, so it looks like we're going to be the 2 seed. You really want to hold that, I would say, and hopefully avoid. I mean, Golden State can still fall out, but hopefully you avoid the Warriors in the first round. But I mean, that's a series you expect to win, even with how good that's been in the past. That's just haven't been quite the same level this season. In the playoffs, I mean, that's definitely not who you want to face, but you're not avoiding that. And I think of staying in that two seed is pretty. I think you're in a fine spot. Phoenix looks like to be the 4, so they would be on the other side of the bracket as well. But that's not the mindset you're thinking of. All about playing your best basketball, and we've seen Desmond Bane's been playing well. Dylan Brooks has been a little bit better offensively. He's an elite defender. He'll be on All NBA defensive team most likely. Then Jared Jackson Jr., who's been defensive player of the year candidate all season. He may not win it, looks like, but still probably second in that voting. And offensively, he's really taken his game to another level. When John Moran was out, and he's kind of continued that a little bit with Job back. And I think he needs to be that guy in the playoffs that you can rely on every night for 20 points. Last year, we didn't quite have that from him. He's got to stay on the floor and stay out of foul trouble in the playoffs. He's got to know it's okay to allow a basket on the other end of the floor because you're too valuable to pick up some dumb fouls. So that's something manage a little bit better these playoffs. But overall, the depth on his team is fantastic, and they have as good a chance as anybody in the West. Honestly, they should be the favorites to come out of the West right now. Depending how Phoenix is the other team, depending how they look. I mean, with Kevin Durant and Booker, that's definitely more star power than the Grizzlies have, but Grizzlies depth can give them a lot of fits if that series may happen.
It should be a really fun time in the coming weeks, and once the playoffs get underway, Chris and I will be definitely recapping some of the biggest moments, and I'm really ready for this Sixers playoff run. I know that Embiid told the Athletic that he's definitely ready to surprise people, and I think that this year, you've been seeing tremendous progress in his game, uh, and he's built different, and I feel like the Sixers are really lucky to have him in a big role, and it's gonna be a fun time watching him go to work against the top teams in the NBA, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Definitely, yeah. Just get to enjoy one more weekend of college basketball, and then we're all in on the NBA as these teams prepare for playoffs. There's so much seeding. We talked about our teams, but like 4 through 8 and 4 through 11 in the West, and then like 4 through 10 in the East. Like so much movement can happen. I guess 5 through 10 because I think Cavs is pretty safe at 4, but like so much movement and seedings and jockeying among those teams will happen in the next 2 weeks. So we have no idea what kind of matchups we'll see. So super excited to see how everything turns out.
Same. It'll be a fun one.